Greetings, everyone. I appreciate you taking your time to watch this video. I would like to cover in this particular session the topic of love and fear and our identity. In many spiritual teachings, there's discussion of love and fear being opposite or opposing forces that exist in creation. One way we can understand that is that love would be a force that focuses on bringing together or uniting, forming some type of connection, whereas fear is a force associated with separation. Looking at this practically in our everyday lives, when we feel what we would label love towards someone or something, we are drawn toward that. We seek it out. And when we fear someone or something, we feel repelled, or we feel like we want to run away from whatever that is. So we want to separate ourselves from whatever the object of that fear might be. Thus, in this practical sense, these forces of love and fear certainly do appear to be guiding us in opposite ways. Love brings connection, and fear brings separation. With that in mind, it's helpful to consider the very nature of life and of our existence. Spiritual teachings tend to remind us that we all come from one spiritual source, one universal field of consciousness or awareness. In that sense, we ultimately are all connected already. We're never truly separate from each other or from that source that unites us. So that would be the spiritual level of existence at its deepest layer, where there is no separation. When we experience life here at the physical level, we are experiencing the ultimate in terms of separation. Consciousness and energy have created these projected forms, these dense expressions that appear to be separate. So our physical bodies appear to be separate from one another. Each cell, each atom that we perceive to exist here in physical reality seems to have its own discrete or separate existence. However, if we were to bring our field of awareness beyond that perceived form, if we were to observe the layers of energy that are being projected in order to create this realm of form, we would see that there really isn't a separation. If we could trace that energy, that stream of spiritual consciousness, back to its source, everything would ultimately coalesce into that one pure essence. As we live our lives here in the human form, most of the time we are identifying more with our physical body, with this sense of separateness. And it's not just the physical body, it's also the personality that we've created or developed as we function in the social societies, in the cultures, the families, the groups and organizations that we participate in. So we've developed that form or aspect of self that is a social construct. Those constructs are, of course, based on separation. And with that separation, there will naturally be things that trigger fear. We may fear how other people will treat or judge us. We may fear failure. We may fear rejection. We may fear abandonment. We may fear experiencing some type of physical harm. There are all these different fears that in a sense are natural or logical from the point of view of either the physical body self or the social self, the personality structure. And it's essentially impossible to fully eliminate all of those fears as long as we're participating in this reality. What we can strive toward is identifying more with our spiritual self so that those fears will not take over or consume us. They won't override what we desire to accomplish in terms of our spiritual development or following whatever path we wish to follow here in this lifetime. Therefore, as we practice becoming more identified with our spiritual self, with that aspect of our being that is here to create, to manifest its dreams and visions, and which arises from a source that is truly unlimited, truly infinite and eternal, then we will tend to experience much less fear. And conversely, with less fear consuming our consciousness, we will be able to relate to the world around us, to other people, more from a state of love, from a state of being open to connections, having more faith and trust. Besides fear being an opposite of love, we could also say that faith and trust are opposites of fear. If we fear someone or something, then we expect it to cause us harm in some way. However, if we have faith and trust, then we're not really worried about being harmed. We sense that on some greater level, everything is going to be okay. Whatever may happen or manifest is just fine, and we'll be able to handle it fine. Therefore, fear has, in a sense, more than one opposite or opposing force to it. It has the opposite, which is love, but it also has this opposite of faith and trust. As we progress on our path in life, we can realize that fear and love are not inherently bad or good. They're just different forces that are at work in creation and which guide the manifestation of life. Love fosters unity, it fosters connection, whereas fear fosters separation and movement away from or opposition toward. Therefore, the dramas that we observe in our lives are being fueled by both of these forces, both of these energies, fear and love. It's helpful to be able to observe this, to not be in judgment or resistance to that reality, to realize that it's essential for life to unfold, for both fear and love to exist. When we perceive things in the world that may trigger our fear, things that trigger our condemnation, our opposition, or even a strong emotion like hate or anger, it may help to step back, to just be in more of an observer mode and perceive that things are how they are in life for a reason. There are things that are being learned or understood from all of it. And we can, in a sense, identify what we support and what we do not support, what we do not want to put our energy towards supporting, without having a strong emotional reaction to it, especially if that emotional reaction is a strong, unpleasant, or what we often label negative emotional reaction. Our emotions are like magnets. They pull us toward things, even our negative emotions. So whether we love someone or we hate them, we're bringing ourselves into some type of energetic resonance with them. And we're helping continue to have that person or that item or issue present in our life if we're having that strong emotional reaction. If there's something that we don't support or condone, it would be wise to focus more of our energy, especially our emotional energy, on the things that we do desire, the things that we do support, and just be able to detach from those things that are not what we desire. Sometimes we may need to take action to stop or resist something that we don't approve of. And when we do that, if we can take those actions, if we can stand up for what we support or what we favor without having a strong hostility in relation to that which we oppose, then it will probably improve the chances of us manifesting what we desire. If we're going through our life with lots of anger and resentment toward people, toward situations, toward issues that concern us, then it's hard for us to get away from them, because that dense emotional energy that we're radiating is acting in that magnetic manner to maintain those things in our reality. Thus, we need to practice some form of spiritual or emotional alchemy to transform ourselves, to release those emotions and restore ourselves toward a state of greater balance, where we're no longer being drawn into those lower vibrational emotions. If we wish to create a more positive life experience, we'll need to be able to let go of those things that have bothered or disturbed us. Those dense emotions are like baggage that weighs us down, that pulls us down into those lower vibrational patterns, and which, in a sense, keeps us stuck in those circumstances. If we can find greater peace within ourselves, regardless of what exists out there in the world around us, then it will be easier for us to bring ourselves into a more positive state and to attract more pleasant experiences. This is one way of understanding how the law of attraction functions. If we can manage our own inner state, then we're better able to bring ourselves toward desirable outer circumstances. Once we understand these dynamic forces that are at work, love and fear, the law of attraction, and the power of our own consciousness, how our identity is influencing the way we experience life and what we are drawing into our experience in our life, then we have more power to transform, more power over what we are co-creating. I encourage each of you to explore these topics and ideas more, to consider how love and fear influence the way you live your life, to do that without judging or condemning yourself or others, but just to create more awareness so that you can have more empowerment, more ability to manage your own consciousness, to work with your own thoughts and feelings in a way that is productive for you in a way that brings you in the direction that you truly desire to move. Love and fear will always be part of life, part of creation. There has to be a separation or apparent movement away from Source in order for experience to unfold. And there has to be a unifying force, something that draws things closer into connection with one another in order to hold creation together, in order to maintain that awareness that we are all still part of that Source consciousness. Therefore, those different forces that seem to oppose each other are ultimately working in a cooperative or complementary sense to maintain the process of creation. I thank each of you for taking your time to watch and listen to this discussion. For those who would like to explore more about spiritual topics, about personal healing and spiritual development, I invite you to watch more videos on this YouTube channel. And you can also visit my website at www.phinsights.com. That's PHINSIGHTS.com. Namaste.